What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be continuing our look at the new attachments that were added with Season 3 of Battlefield 6, and today's video is going to be quite a quick one because we're covering the Magnifier attachment. And this is a fairly straightforward one, but I did pick up on a few things that I was unaware of before I did the testing on this. So let's just dive right into this. And the first thing I wanted to look at is, what is this available on? And initially, I started going through the guns to see which guns it was and wasn't available on, but then I realized it's not the gun that matters, it's the optic that you're using that matters as to whether or not the magnifier becomes available. And here's a quick reference I threw together. For any of the optics that has an X on it, you will not see the option to put the magnifier on there. And by the way, if you guys are curious, the magnifier is in the optic accessories tab on your attachments. And sometimes that tab doesn't appear until you add on the appropriate optic. But as we're seeing, there's not a whole lot of options here to be used with the magnifier attachment. In fact, the highest magnification optic you can use combined with a magnifier is a 2x optic. But next, let's get into what the magnifier actually does. With this, when you have it equipped, you'll see it on your gun. And in order to toggle this magnifier on, you first have to aim down sight and then hit the toggle button, whatever you have that mapped to. Then once you do that, the character will flip the magnifier in front of the current optic. And with that, of course, you will maintain the same reticle that your optic had, although that reticle will now be enlarged since you're zooming in on it. And your overall zoom level, or like field of view while aiming down sight, will be increased. And I did all the testing on this, and it turns out it just doubles whatever the current optics magnification is. So if I'm using this with the OSA 7 1 magnification optic, once I toggle the magnifier on, I now have the same magnification level as a 2 magnification optic. And this doubling applies to all of them. So if you're using a 1.5 magnification optic and you toggle the magnifier on, now you have a 3 magnification. And then as we saw, the highest magnification optic you can use this with is a 2x optic. So toggling this on will now match your zoom level of a 4x optic. So as I said, it's a really straightforward attachment, but there is a key downside that you may not have considered, and that is the fact that adding this magnifier to your gun takes up more screen space, especially when the magnifier is toggled off because it's going to be canted to the side. And I just wanted to show a comparison of that here. If I'm using the M4A1 with the OSA 7 optic, on the top left, this is what it looks like when aiming down sight without a magnifier on. Whereas on the bottom right, this is what it looks like with the magnifier attached to the gun, but not toggled on. So I'm still getting that one-time zoom here. And I actually calculated the area of this relative to the total area of your screen at 105 FOV. And with no magnifier equipped, our gun and hands and everything is covering 17.5% of the total screen space. Whereas with the magnifier on there, but not toggled on, it's covering 24.8% of the total pixels on my screen. And that's a pretty big jump. That could potentially block your view in certain situations. It may cause you to miss a target that just happens to be a little bit to the right of your gun as you're aiming down sight. And so that is a clear downside to using this magnifier. And one of the big reasons that you may want to stay away from this, but of course, it does depend. For some people, they don't really mind this. Maybe they're not aiming down sight for very long. And when you're in hip fire, while the magnifier is still there, it's not going to be covering as much of that important screen space as when you're aiming down sight. And so it does depend on your playstyle, does depend on your preferences as well, and whether or not that really bugs you all that much. But overall, when it comes to the magnifier attachment and my thoughts on this, with it being a 10-point attachment, by the way, I don't think I mentioned that at all. This will cost 10 points. I personally think this is a good addition to the game. I can definitely see some use case for this. It may allow you to use an optic with a reticle that you really enjoy, while providing the ability to double your magnification on the fly, rather than being forced to use a multi-zoom optic by default that maybe you don't like the reticle on, for instance. So there's definitely some use cases there. I think some people will definitely enjoy using this magnifier. And I may put it on the odd class setup here or there, but realistically, for my average build that I'm going to be using, I'm probably going to be staying away from the magnifier, largely due to the fact that it just takes up so much screen space. But another factor to consider is I'm often perfectly comfortable with my low zoom optic, even at longer ranges with the setup that I'm playing on. And a big thing to remember is as you increase the magnification or the zoom level, you're also going to be increasing the perceived visual recoil, since any movement while zooming in will be exacerbated with that zoom. And that's one of the big reasons I stick to a low zoom optic almost all the time. Now, in saying that, there is of course some benefit in certain situations, especially if you're playing on a bigger map, like Golmud for instance. There are going to be situations where it may be nice to primarily play with that low zoom optic, but then you find yourself crossing a big open field and you want that little bit of extra zoom because your next fight is likely going to be at least like 75 meters away, for instance. So having that bit of extra zoom can be really helpful. Overall, I think it's a good addition to the game. I can definitely see some solid use cases. I also feel it's appropriately priced at 10 attachment points, and I'm glad it's here even if I don't end up using it all that much going forward. Now, of course, these are just my thoughts on the Magnifier, and I'd love to know what you guys think about this new attachment in those comments down below. Is it something you're going to be using on some of your loadouts, or maybe not? Are you going to stay away from it? If you enjoyed this video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.